just recently started reading that and all that.
Okay. So I think I actually have us going in a little bit here. Let's start some music just a bit. And I'm just going to grab that real quick. Okay. Well, welcome to another episode of Live Discussions for FinerWorks. We're going to be talking today about all the different art marketplaces out there. Well, actually, not all of them, because there's probably about a bazillion at this point. But I'm going to go with some of the main ones that we all know, some that we integrate here with FinerWorks as well. I also have artist Laz on here, who's joining us from New Zealand. So, good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning to you, so considering you're a whole day ahead of us. And he's going to give us
closer to Friday than we are.
Yeah, you're closer than Friday than we are right now. But we're going to have him giving his feedback on Shopify and Squarespace, even Wix. So he's tried a bunch of platforms too, and we're going to hear from him, as well as all of you who are watching online. So right now, if you can, go ahead in the comments section, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and put where in the world you're watching from. So like I said, we got Laz representing New Zealand, and we're here in San Antonio. But in the comment section, go ahead and put where you're watching from. And also let us know what platform you're using to sell your prints right now. And we're going to look at several things and several factors on them across the board. But before we jump into all of that, James is here with us, and I kind of wanted him to mention our 25% off sale that ends tonight, Central Time at midnight. So Laz, if you still want to get something right now, you could. And so, we have the promotion of 25% off. So James, do you want to go ahead and talk about that just a little bit?
This is one of my favorite sales for us to offer, because both of these papers are extremely popular across both with regular, traditional artists that like to paint and do reproductions of their artwork, to modern day digital photographers. The satin luster paper is a heavier weight luster paper, similar to like your Kodak and Dura luster paper, but it's much thicker, much more robust. It feels more higher quality, and the output on both of these papers is extremely phenomenal. So these are extremely popular papers. Go ahead and give them a try if you have not already. 25% off. Just even if it's just ordering 8x10, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the print quality that you'll see.
Yeah. And again, that sale ends tonight at midnight. So make sure to jump on that.
We kind of did that at the last moment date, I guess, the day before.
Yeah, I think it was like after I asked you, were you going to run a Labor Day sale? And I went home and
it's like, oh yeah, I forgot we got to get this sale up and running.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, here in the U.S., I'm not. Maybe in some other countries as well, we celebrate Labor Day on the first Monday, I guess it is, of September. So, which is considered a national holiday, which basically means all the car dealerships are offering sales and open, but all the government offices are closed.
Yeah, so basically our carriers are not working, and or running
They
to
are
it.
today.
They are today.
Yesterday.
But yeah, for yesterday. But that's why it's not considered a business day also. So
Yeah.
holidays, and I always tell people just to remember that your delivery time is based on production time plus delivery time. And those all operate in business days. So you got to make sure when you're setting up these marketplaces that you're looking at that. Let me go ahead and add this in here. So we're going to talk about these, and James had wrote a really good blog post that I had liked, and he was talking about the marketplace and just different things to consider on there, and that would be in your email, and you can click on that and read that.
Or just it's the most recent article in our on our blog. You go to support.finerworks.com.
Let me actually get to show you
to it on the first page.
Let's go back and just get into it, so we can just show people where that is at. So if you're on our page, you should just go down here to support.
Yeah, or just go to blog. It's
where would you like me to direct to? So I think the link is we used to have it kind of right here, but and now James is always updating some things here. But I think yeah, if you
no, scroll up.
Oh, up, okay.
All the way up to the top where it says
support. There we are. And then there's the blog.
Yeah. We make it real obvious for everyone.
He changes the site a little bit on me just to keep me on my toes. But yeah, if you go into our blog and read, I'm so used to navigating straight from the email onto there. Now, actually, we're getting a little bit of a delay, maybe because I'm streaming. But if you go in there, it'll be the first blog that's available. Let me go back into here, add to stream. And so he was talking about all these factors, and I thought, that I'm really glad you have that up there for people to take a look at. And I want to also write down really quick while he's doing that is thank everybody for telling us where you're at. Remember, if you're just joining the stream, put in there where you're at, and then in a second, start putting your link to your stores that you're selling your art on, and let us know what platform you're using. If you're using Shopify, put Shopify and then the link to your store, because I'd like to have those up here on the site as well. But as I read that article, I was thinking, it is so hard to select. I've been an artist assistant for almost 13 years now for Robert Tatum. And we use the Square POS at the gallery and use the Shopify on the website. And now there's so many new integrations that are happening that I'm kind of like, okay, well, maybe we can get the Square to kind of work with our website so I can keep inventory basically all together, and I'm not having to change numbers as one sells off one platform to the other. So working with his wife, I've kind of run into some of the issues you all have run into. I will say inventory is going to be one of the most frustrating things you're going to do. But let's kind of get in here. So there's a really good article. It's actually by Shopify on their site. And I'll have links in the description of this video tomorrow if y'all want to take a look in there. But there's a good article on how to sell online. And here's the 9 steps. Which is, find that niche that's good. Like some people, their art covers a lot of stuff on there. And I'll see it with Geo Galleries. There's pencil etchings that are maybe of cars. There's watercolors that are maybe, human figure. They have acrylic paintings that are cityscapes, animal portraits. There's a lot going on there, but you're going to find that niche that people are very attracted to your art. It's almost like a stylistic kind of thing on top of subject. I think that kind of draws people there. So find that niche, establish your target audience. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about, you need to know who are the people buying your art. And if you're doing this, if you're doing a market email list, or if you have some analytics on some things that you're using, you might have this. And if you never have, just start with your booth or your sales. Just kind of start getting either emails down and maybe get a couple of questions going from the people who are already buying your art. If you're using social media, maybe get some feedback on there. If you have I think it's like the business creator account on Instagram, you can see your analytics of who your followers are. And that will help you a little bit so you know who you're selling to. Decide which products to sell. I'll kind of go in that in 1 second. And then the thing we're going to talk about and focus on is going to be create an online store. Choose your sales channels, set up a payment processing, which is part of your online store. Choose your shipping method, promote your products, continuously improve your services. It's a really good article on Shopify. And again, I'll have that link up. Other things I thought about just in selling art in general was having a separate bank account for your business and understanding taxes. Sales taxes and income tax are very different things, and I see a lot of people confuse those. So those are just some things before even selling. But let's take a look at kind of the free trials that are out there. Because as you probably have gone through a lot of these free trial things on here. And again, I put on there that most cumbersome task at doing any of these is creating the inventory. Because you're having almost to do it on two sides. You're going to create the inventory as it's going to appear to your customers on these platforms. And then you got to create the inventory again on the print partner that you have that is going to fulfill that order for you. Let's see, if you're going to multiple sites, I suggest do a few items. So if you're going to start this and you're trying to test multiple sites at one time, a thing that I see some artists when they're asking for help on certain things, and we are not trained on the integrations here. None of our customer service staff has that technical support. They're not coders. They really don't know a lot of the issues that we have going on with the other platforms because we're not their employees. So we don't know where disconnects are happening. So I see a lot of artists basically give up. And I'm going to say, just don't give up. Just kind of if you're going to test them, do maybe 3 items onto each platform if you're going to test multiple sites at one time and see what works better for you. I know Laz has done a lot of images and loaded them up and have had to redo that all over again. He's invested with a developer too. So we're going to kind of talk about some of that as well and his experience with some of the platforms, customer service. Learning a new site, it takes time. And I don't want, people to feel discouraged because you need to get out there selling your art. It's nice to have an online presence and market place for you to sell your art. So please don't get discouraged. Just take notes of what you're doing because trust me, after a month or so, you're not going to end up remembering and you'll come back and need to add an item. So take notes with what you're doing. We're going to look at several platforms that I was looking at. And I said, it's kind of like, what do you want the platform to do? There's some that are their own standalone platforms, and you're on there with other artists. And there's pros and cons to that. There's artist saturation, right? Like there's just so many artists. And nowadays, everybody feels like an artist with, cell phones, giving them AI. Everybody's an artist. There's a more competitive visual market out there. And you're going to have to, make yourself different. Now, when you get onto any of these sites like ArtPal, Saatchi, Big Cartel, Geo Galleries, there's other artists on there. And the pros and cons of that. If you're an emerging artist, having somebody who's a little bigger on there, they may see your stuff and you may create new fan base on there just from kind of a collaboration of being on the same platform. Now, with sites like Shopify, Squarespace, Square Online, you are able to make this as a shopping cart experience on your own website. So at no time are your collectors leaving and possibly seeing other art. So there's that pro on there. And that's something you kind of want to think about as you get ready to put these together. And I have like questions as you're trying to figure out what you want to do with these sites. Like I said, what items will you be selling? Original art, art prints, your digital downloads? Are you going to need something for your commissions? Are you going to have to charge other fees like licensing fees? Is that going to have to go through your website? That's why for us, we have the Square POS and a Shopify, but really we can kind of do all of this with invoicing on some of these sites. So that was like our predicament, was trying to find as many ways to sell all of these different items on there, because you kind of want to stay on one platform. It is hard when you're working multiple platforms. The other thing is quality control. So with some of these websites, you got to think, and I know there's a lot of you because we get the calls and we get the emails, and y'all want those colors to match precisely as you see them at home, as precisely as you see them on your backlit screen, and not considering any possible other light sources that can hit your prints. And we understand there's a lot of you there like that, but you're going to have to give up some of that quality control if you do some websites. Some sites, like we were talking about, Saatchi, Society 6, Redbubble, a lot of sites out there, they work with print partners. And the way they do these to go ahead and expedite the order is the print partner that gets it is going to be based on where the recipient is. So if the customer is on the East Coast of the United States, they may use a printer on the East Coast that's going to get to that print faster. The transit time is faster. And they may not be the same print quality in color matching or media as maybe the West Coast one that you're like, if you're based in the West Coast and you're used to all of your stuff coming from there. So there is that. There's a little bit of that quality control that you're just going to have to take your hand off the wheel to do that. So you have to make that balance on there that, you may not get that. And I did have a customer that came in that had used a website. And the first sale that she made actually was a local collector. And they said, I bought prints from you before and they've never looked this horrible. This looks like something I got out of a laser printer or something like that. Like I could have printed this at home. And she was horrified, upset, and rightfully so. You want something that's going to, be a good first impression of your art. So there is that. And we'll talk a little bit on, that as a printer, we get a lot of those websites, platforms that come to us and they ask for, hey, we'd love for y'all to be our order fulfillment partner. And the first thing, that they try to drive down is the price. Well, if you want the quality print, this is what it costs. James, do you want to talk a little bit about that? You and I were having a good conversation about this.
Yeah, so one of the problems that associated with many of these services that have sites, these platforms that have sites to sell your artwork, the ones that are not doing the printing in-house, that are outsourcing the printing, is they're not printing companies in many cases, and their knowledge of printing tends to be kind of limited. So what happens is their focus, what they're oriented in, is getting the best price they can, and that means and we know this because we talk to these companies. These companies approach us quite often, and some big ones actually, and then some small ones, a lot of small ones, and they'll say, hey, as long as it looks good, blah blah blah. It doesn't have to be, of the highest quality. I just want to get the best price. The conversation isn't verbatim that way, but that's essentially what they're communicating to us. And a lot of times we cannot help them because their price point that they're wanting is just too low. And so they will go and find another company that may be able to hit that price point. But the products that they're producing tend to be very low quality.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we already are in providing some very competitive rates for the type of products we produce with the fine art papers. We use the inks and so forth. But for us to offer people a product that everyone can make a profit on, otherwise there's no point in the whole, the whole thing is it's important that the price point be at a price point that everyone can earn something, yet that the quality is also, what most artists would want their customers to receive.
Yeah.
And an example, just recently I talked to a owner of a site, or he took over a site actually that was pretty prominent, pretty well connected in the online fine art printing company, and he was trying to compete with the art.coms out there and some of the other ones. And most of y'all probably heard of the company, but unfortunately I can't name them.
Yeah.
But he was trying to negotiate pricing with us, and he saying, okay, well, can we do the prints on just like a poster paper, or I think it came down to the best we can do to get to that price point is print on this poster paper that we offer, but that still was too high. The price point was too high, and we were almost giving these away already. And then he said, well, what type of inks do you use? And I said, well, we use Epson inks because that's we believe in the Epson quality. So, well, I know a guy that can or I think he said that the previous owners, some of they used lower quality inks, off-brand inks. And I said, well, that wouldn't work for us. We won't feed our machine off-brand inks. Even though there's a good chance those off-brand inks may come from the same vats of ink that the Epson ink comes from, we don't want to take a chance. Okay, we want to stick with, we say we're offering quality products, and we're utilizing name brand materials, media, inks, and so forth. So we're not gonna sacrifice anything just so we can get that business. And so it didn't work out, but mainly I think because of that price point.
Yeah, I mean, there are times that we just have to walk away from something like that because
this is not the first time this has happened. Okay, but what happens is when you do start to sacrifice quality of inks, and let me tell you, anyone watching, okay, I've been down that road. This is over a decade ago. FinerWorks, we found out that, and the type of printers we're using, these big HP UV pigmented inks, which were, gosh, looking back, a little terrible, but really the printers. Oh, this is probably 15 years ago.
Yeah, but the time for the technology that was available. Anyway,
so our rep, where we were buying the inks, said, hey, we have our own privately labeled inks. They come from the same batch of inks that the HP inks come from. So you're not going to lose any quality. You're going to get the exact same ink. They're going to print just the same. And generally, he was right. But I did run into problems on occasion with these inks. That not so much with the them working, but something about the colors just weren't right at times. And it was already a struggle with this printer to get decent color, at least the way I wanted the colors to look. So I really lost confidence in utilizing name brand or not utilizing name brand. Now, when it comes to tortilla chips, hey, I'll go with
Discount.
the grocery store brand, but versus the Frito Lay. But
that's where you save your money.
But when it comes to inks, I won't.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that quality control issue there that, you know, a lot of these places are going to, and you have to be, are you okay with that? Are you okay with that representation of your art or photography? Going on to the next slide, another thing, and I was mentioning this earlier, is basically, like I was saying with Squarespace, Shopify, you can kind of keep that on your own website and kind of run everything there. It does the catalog, it does the checkout, the payment processing, all done through there, and it looks like it just comes off of your website. Whereas again, Etsy and stuff like that, you're going to be on their marketplace. So you kind of have that look of, do you want it, you know, basically you have control over everything, it's on your site, or, you know, do you want the appearance of, you know, you're being represented by the gallery or like a vendor in a gallery space? And that's kind of what those marketplaces are like. So there's taking that into consideration on your online presence. So next question is, that's become a big thing, is do they offer payment plans? Credit cards right now still going to always be so far the top notch. You know, as long as you can accept a credit card and somebody buys a $3,000 piece of art and they make the payments, they're comfortable with the terms of their credit card. Layaway plans. When I worked at Art on Fifth in Austin, we used to have that. That actually used to be my first thing there. Was as the office manager, was managing the layaways. And let me tell you, I hated those. You run the card at the you know, agreed upon time of the month, and either the card's declined, they've changed a card, they've forgotten about the art they have on layaway. And even for the galleries, it's this conundrum now of we have to act like collectors. And that doesn't create the space to make people want to come back. So layaways are kind of going away. They're outdated. And now what is coming around here is BNPL, which is the buy now, pay later. That would be like Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay, PayPal, Sezzle, Apple Pay. There's all of these four payment options over 6 weeks. There's some that will let you make payments over 6 months without interest. But they're banking on you to not make that, because then the interest rates on some of those, as a buyer, you're looking at 29% APR on some of these. But like I said, they're a great. I love them. I love BNPL. So when I was at AO5, PayPal Credit had come out, and I'm like, why don't we just move to this? This is great, you know. And it becomes between them and PayPal Credit. I don't have to chase them down for the money. I can pay the artist immediately, you know, that month that this is their payout, their sell. Where I had somebody who sold, you know, we sold a piece and it was 6 months, 7 months later, the person maybe made 3 payments, not consecutively. The artist had somebody who wanted to buy it full out on, you know, amount. There was just so much that layaway process put on you that was just no good for the artist. So BNPL, buy now, pay later, is nice, and it takes you out of the equation of being the collector. You don't want to be the collector. You want to be the artist and be the person everybody loves. So BNPL is great to have, and it really does make people do those purchases. I know I'm an art junkie. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'm going to buy it. It's letting me have $3,000 worth of credit. I'm getting it, and I will do it. And I'll eat ramen for the next, you know, several months and just buy my art because I love art junkie here. What social media integrations are there? There's like a bookmark, what we call bookmark sharing. So you would basically grab your URL up there and you would share it onto Facebook, or you would share it onto Twitter. But with sites like Instagram now and TikTok, it's a little harder. You're not going to quite get that. And now with Facebook and Instagram being owned by Meta, there is the marketplace. So you need an integration that's not only going to promote, is it going to let you sell on those marketplaces? So that's the thing. If you need that option, if that's where your growth is on your social platforms, then you might want to look and see if that website that you're looking to do to take to be your e-commerce site can provide that. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to say bells and whistles on here. So when you're looking at stuff like that, let's look at, do they offer analytics, your page analytics on here so that you can say, okay, I know what my traffic is coming. I know the demographic of my buyer. Are you able to do an ad boost? Is it worth doing an ad boost? Do they offer you email marketing to go ahead and, basically they already have the templates. You're just going to poke in parts of your website and you're going to shoot that out. It keeps the database of your buyers. There's nice little things like that. Unique URLs, like Geo Galleries. You'll get geogalleries.com/your username. So it's easier to remember. Is there seller support and customer support? Seller support, like with Geo Galleries, once you sell on there, they don't need to contact you. If they want tracking, they contact Geo Galleries, which is actually the FinerWorks support team here. They track down the orders. If something happens, it gets there damaged in transit. Our support team goes ahead and tells your customers, we're sending you another order right out. And we take care of that. And that cost is on us. Seller support, though, I'll say for Geo Galleries is a little hard. It's just me. And it's kind of hard here. I think I make a couple of Zoom calls. I'm going to say this. I've met a lot of artists in my 6 years working here at FinerWorks, because all over the world, we've done Zoom calls over the last 3-4 years now. And getting to meet people and going over there. I think a lot of y'all even knew my granddad because he was in the background during some of those Zoom calls. But that's the customer support right now. Seller support. We're able to offer. I do a private group and I do a weekly meeting on there to try to take some questions. So you need to find out seller support because it is hard sometimes setting these platforms up. Geo Galleries is pretty easy because if you're already using FinerWorks, there's not much integration to do there. You just kind of hit, list on Geo Galleries. Do they offer themes? Are you able to do discounts and promo codes? Customizable inventory, that you want to be able to do. I think what was an issue you were saying you were having is offering that image with different product options, kind of variants. Do they offer product mock-ups? Unlimited image and products listing. That's something to look at, especially if you're somebody who has a lot of works. Their order fulfillment integration. So that's another thing you want to look at on some of these websites. So here's a couple of free trials, but I'm going to skip over to another screen and share that. So we can take a look now into what we're here to talk about, which is a little bit of a comparison. And then we're going to kind of go into listening from everybody on your feedback of your experiences. Let me just share this out. Let's go to share screen. And let's go to right here in my drive. Okay. So excuse this because it was getting hard. It wouldn't let me get it. So I started screenshotting on here. Let's make that kind of big. This is a little fuzzy, but I'm trying to get it on here as best as I can. So I kind of looked at, let's count, Shopify Basic, Square Free, Squarespace, Commerce Basic. There is a free option. I'll kind of note that as I'm going. Etsy, Geo Galleries, ArtPal, Saatchi, Big Cartel Gold, Society 6, Redbubble Standard, and the Fine Art America Premium. I listed a lot of their established dates as I found them, either on their sites. So you can look here at ArtPal, it's 1999. So we have some people who've been around for a lot of years. I was actually surprised on Fine Art Americas because I was reading the guys, thinking it was 2006. I felt like they were in the 90s. I just kind of felt like they were. Do you think that's a revamp of the site?
No, I think that's about right.
That's about right.
Well, at least that's probably when it. Well,
What,
I would say it was probably around 2010 or so when it
really took off.
felt kind of came under my radar. But I don't know what kind of changes since its original founding, but it's nowhere what it once was. I think in some areas it's much better, and in some areas it's probably not as good.
Yeah.
From what I understand, and we and I don't mind saying this because we do not print for Fine Art America, but they're one of those companies that does outsource their printing, or had in the past. Not sure what the circumstances is now, but at one point that they were outsourcing, and I know who they were outsourcing to, and heard a lot of problems, which I'm not surprised of who they were outsourcing to, but.
And this sheet that I'm showing you is, I mean, it is a very condensed sheet from several days of researching. Some places I found it very easy to find the information. It was very upfront. And then there was others like, I mean, Etsy, I had a hard time with Etsy trying to get a total, fee thing. And then there's some, as we go to,
the thing is, Etsy it's that they're,
you feel nickel and dimed a little bit on Etsy.
Their platform is their model is so different.
Yeah, and I mean, we love Etsy. It has its.
Oh yeah, a lot of our users are
Etsy. Yeah,
Etsy.
It's
But really, there's when it comes to it comes down to what you want to earn on Etsy, and what you're whether or not you have buyers for your products on Etsy. One thing that Etsy does that these other don't really do is they don't really drive sales traffic. Okay.
Yeah.
Etsy brings buyers and sellers together. All these other sites say they do. Okay. But they really only bring, most of the traffic, and I shouldn't say this. There are probably some other exceptions, but most of the traffic is either browsers or the artists themselves. They make up the majority of the traffic. When I say browsers, people that aren't really shopping, but they're looking. Gallery sites can be a lot of fun to look at, see all the neat art, but actually attracting buyers, that's where Etsy really excels at.
Yeah. They need a marketplace that's just featured for people like me who are basically art addicts that are like, okay, electrical bill or art, because there are people like me who are just,
but other places like Big Cartel, Shopify, Squarespace, Square, those are great tools. I don't like to really call them marketplace platforms. I like to call them more.
And that's why I kind of put them up here as a thing something to put on your own website. They're more like the e-commerce is basically going to be on your site. So this is working with them a little more, I want to say, experience on here. You're going to need a little more patience working with those ones. But
so Laz is going to provide us some insight on.
Laz, do you want to let us know what your experience has been so far with those two platforms, as far as how I mean, I know it's been hard on our end too, trying to give you integration help, and I unfortunately have had to push you that way, but what has been your experience with them?
With selling in general. Not so much the integration part, but really with your experience in being able to sell your artwork on those platforms, and are they good platforms?
Okay, basically where I come from is I've always sold my paintings in physical art galleries. And because of what's happened in the world, it's affected the art galleries in my country. And all my art galleries have closed down, basically, except for 2. And they are struggling to sell art because they base their turnover on physical traffic, people coming into the art gallery. And the economy being the way it is, there's less and less people buying art. So I wanted to reach a larger audience. And so basically, most of the artists I know have been forced onto online selling.
Mm-hmm.
So I've come from spending all day long in the art studio, painting paintings, to now having to sit in front of a computer and set up a site, not knowing anything other than how to turn the computer on. So as you can tell from some of my emails, Melissa, it's been a very painful experience for me. And I was wanting to give up so many times because I just want to paint, right?
Yeah.
But financial needs forced me into a place that I have to actually proceed. But what I've discovered after 6 months is that it's no longer painful. I've got used to it, and I actually look forward to it, which is, so anyone who's doing this, who's listening, if you're having trouble, struggling and hitting brick walls, just keep going, because you'll get to the point where it becomes more familiar. And once it becomes more familiar, you actually start to enjoy it. But you've got to do it on a continual basis. So what I compared myself with the sites that I'm involved in is Wix, Squarespace, and Shopify. Now, I set up my Wix site not to sell, but just because I worked on Lord of the Rings and everyone wanted to know about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a contract with them that I wasn't allowed to say anything for 5 years. So once I came out of that contract, I started the Wix website just to put myself out there, because all my work up until that time was coming through commissions, through film work, through private buyers. I had no public presence. Now, the problem we have coming in right full cycle here to Squarespace, Shopify, and Wix, no one knows who I am on there. Unless you drive traffic to your website, you will not get anyone come on your website by accident. So that's what you're saying, James. Whereas Etsy attracts people.
Mhm.
Like people, I've never sold on Etsy because I've considered myself personally to be a lower price point than what I'm aiming at, because I'm in a higher income sort of like target audience. Okay.
Sure.
So the comparisons for me with setting up a site is which has been the less painful, and Squarespace has been way less painful than Shopify. I mean, I'm sure Shopify is a great platform. In fact, I spent 6 months setting up a Shopify store, and I was just about to launch a large advertising campaign, and then suddenly our country got hit by all these scam purchases.
Mm-hmm.
We had a whole bunch of small retailers, which is what I would call myself, who've basically almost gone bankrupt and had to close their Shopify stores down because they were hit with fraudulent purchases from countries which obviously they should have blocked those countries, right? But the problem is this, and I'll just sum this up quickly. The problem is this: they were stolen credit cards, and once the purchase has been discovered, it's like a fraudulent purchase, the credit card company stops the purchase, but doesn't refund the fee to the store. So one person I know had $400,000 worth of sales overnight. And because we're asleep while you're awake, she finds out in the morning there's been $400,000 worth of sales. Imagine if I had $400,000 worth of sales, immediately they would go to FinerWorks and you guys would start getting onto it, right? And the way the system works is you would automatically charge me. So let's say I was charged 150 grand on my credit card. Once we've worked out it's fraudulent, you refund me, and hopefully the exchange rate works in my favor, which it doesn't always work in my favor. I still have to pay the 2.9% fee to PayPal and to the credit card company.
Sure. Yeah. It's a
problem.
It's a big problem. Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
here's just to clarify, Laz, just a thing with integration, it's not automation. So that's a good point on here, because
Yeah, that's what we want to know.
Like
About.
that, when those hit there, it would have stopped at that site because you have to.
That's a risk of automation.
Yeah, that's why there's automation is not quite there in a lot of places like that, because this is almost a secure. You got to approve those orders and push them over to FinerWorks through the integration so that we can fulfill it. So you get to see as the artist.
You get to confirm.
That way you're not out an additional.
Yeah, because that is a risk that is taken, and we've seen that happen before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what we worked out in this country was we had to go to this manual capture option. You know what I mean? That's what you're talking about. The manual capture option means the sale comes in, and we have 7 days to
authorize
reject the order.
Yeah. And after 7 days, it falls over.
Yeah, it comes in as an authorized sale, but not as a sale, and then you can convert it to a sale.
Yeah. So basically, what I did was I just limited all my sales to the 5 eyes, we call it. You know, that's Canada, US, Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand, because there's less fraudulent activity happening in those countries. Then you've also got that. I think in Europe you have that double authentication thing where they that's the reason why they've set that up, because these guys are getting smarter and smarter, right? But let's get back to the comparison. So the comparison between Squarespace and Shopify, the big comparison for me is customer support. When you're setting up a site and you've got a page and you're thinking, oh my goodness, how do I actually how do I put a button where I can send a person on this page to another page or something like that, like a question like that. Mm-hmm. With Shopify, they tended to send me to, it took like a day to get an answer sometimes, which is okay. And then they would send me to a blog or to a help, and it's written. I have to read it, follow the instructions, but maybe there's a video. But with Squarespace, they take a screenshot of them doing it on my page. Mm-hmm. Then they send me that video, and I can follow that step by step on my page, which makes it way easier. So I found that so enjoyable a process, and I found that they would get back to me within an hour to 2 hours with the video. So it took me 3 weeks to set up my Squarespace store. It took me 6 months to do the Shopify one.
Wow.
Now the other advantage is, because I'm doing all fulfillment through you guys, because I already had all that in inventory, that's what sped up the Squarespace thing as well, because I could just go straight in and take those products and integrate them with Squarespace. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The third thing I just need to put, this is the big one for me, really big. The quality of the images on my site are super important for me. I mean, I know people don't want their images stolen, but if someone comes on my site and they look at a photo of my painting and it's blurry, that is just not going to do for me. That's just not good. The Shopify images were always lower quality than Squarespace. Squarespace, what you guys said, you know how when I say, for example, I list a product where it's got wraparound canvas and the image is wrapped around, and you automatically you have a photo of a 3/4 view to the painting. Let's say it's on 1.5 or 3/4 inch, and you can see the photo perfectly, right? Mm-hmm. When you saw that on Shopify, it was such poor quality. On Squarespace, it looks just like how you show me when I'm doing the product, when I'm setting up the inventory. So I found Squarespace way superior from that point of view. In terms of,
I'm glad to hear that, and it kind of affirms some things that we've discovered. When and I mentioned this to you in private before we started the broadcast that we have a team of developers that are actually going to be working on revamping our Squarespace and our Shopify application, and as well as our Etsy. Etsy one's not too bad, but the Squarespace and Shopify, they both have some gaps in them. And I will tell you this though, is that what you mentioned as far as support, even for developers, Squarespace is so much better than Shopify in helping figure out, okay, why isn't it behaving the way it's supposed to? And we've seen so often with Shopify is they will tell us one thing and their documentation will say another.
Yeah.
And then their documentation, neither will be correct.
Yeah.
And
out of date, some of it I've noticed. Some of it is out of date.
It's become, and just even to get the application on there has become very difficult. Or being able to do certain, what should be very simple tasks, like being able to automatically post tracking and notification to Squarespace is not Squarespace, I'm sorry, Shopify is very convoluted and very difficult to get to work consistently. I might be able to get it, you might connect your Shopify store to FinerWorks, and we send notifications when your orders ship. But Melissa might have a Shopify site, and it doesn't work for her. And it's really, I'm sorry.
It is frustrating on our end too.
Unfortunately, I don't have to deal with that much anymore. But it's been a very difficult thing for many users. And I've seen many users move from Squarespace or from Shopify to Squarespace, not because of that, but because of what you said, the support, and as well as just the integration is much smoother.
Also, they put their prices up, so they're almost, for the same service I'm paying almost 50% less on Squarespace.
That's
a big difference. That's a big difference.
And I'll admit, FinerWorks Media, the parent company for FinerWorks.com, does own several Shopify websites that are very lucrative, or at least one is very lucrative. So we do, it's not that we don't use Shopify or that I'm telling people not to use Shopify, because we do. But I in hindsight, I wish I had, we had set all that up on Squarespace.
I mean, and again, technology changes.
It does, and I think Shopify at one point was, my own humble opinion, was far superior to Squarespace, but I think it's become. I just hope Squarespace doesn't make some of the same mistakes Shopify did.
And so I'm going to go share back that link. Also, when you're
and I think Wix is good too. I think and we will.
A lot of people who use Wix.
Well, that's one of the services we plan on offering support for too.
Let me go back into that sheet. Somebody was just asking, so let me just put that up on here really quick. I have Christina who's asking, what about eBay? Is that a good place for artists? And I was going to, I have an eBay on the thing, and I was going to do a whole thing on it. And the more I read from artists, there was this guy from London who had been on there, and he said that he had been in 1995 when eBay started, that he was like one of the first people up there. He was selling, he said he made anywhere from 10 to 15,000 pounds a year off of the site. It was great, and for a lot of us who were in the 90s, in our 20s, and selling art, and you were so excited for this worldwide commerce that you were going to have now. And it was a pretty easy thing. You just shot a picture, you didn't have to worry about print quality, anything like that, because you're selling your originals, you're putting those up. What ended up happening is that he had noticed, and several artists have commented on this as I've checked on these articles, is that they found there was this deterioration of the customer. It almost now, as Etsy, feels like a garage sale. So he said, he got this guy is like eBay. I'm sorry. Yeah. eBay felt like this garage sale kind to him. And eBay was getting to the point where, here he had this, I think it was like a 20 by 30. And the guy said, I'll give you $100, but that needs to include shipping from the UK to California. So that was, he was like, that's not even going to cover shipping. So he's, you got more hagglers, you got more people that were, it just wasn't it's not a good sales atmosphere anymore for art buyers or for art sellers. So Christina, I don't really recommend it. And that's why I didn't want to give it too much time. There's people who might have success on there. I mean, I'm sure if you get somebody's.
I do know there is the occasional artist
Yeah.
that has successful on it, but it tends to be very quite
far
rare.
few between. Yeah.
I
Nowadays, I mean, I'm sure if you have an Andy Warhol and you sold it there, you would do awesome. But again, it's just a different marketplace. So I'm glad that helps. So let's take a look at some of the other ones here. Oops, I've switched out.
And Melissa, can I just ask you, just touch on something there quickly?
Sure.
About shipping?
Yeah.
Because shipping was a real rabbit trail for me.
Yes.
So I ended up just saying, look, because there's so many different apps that were offering, shipping integration and all that sort of thing. And in the end, I just decided to go free shipping. I decided to just do everything free shipping, just increase the price a little on the retail, and just because it's so much easier.
It is. And I recommend that to a lot of people. It's like, okay, when you go buy something off of a grocery shelf, that price is not just the price of the cost of the product to be made. It is including the price of, it's shipping, it's the packaging. There is so much that goes into the price of a product that you see on a shelf. And you just don't think about it because you're just looking at that one price. So I always think it is better just to kind of like with FinerWorks. And I know shipping is such a weird, it's like a Rubik's Cube that's constantly moving. So shipping rates are sometimes very difficult.
They're very fluid.
Yeah.
They're very fluid, and they lately not flowing in the right direction.
Yeah. It is getting more expensive to ship. I mean, you look at fuel prices and anywhere. I mean, how is it in New Zealand there, Laz? Is it like, have you seen fuel prices go up as much as we've seen here in the US?
I don't know what they are there, but we pay per litre. I don't know. You do per gallon, don't you?
Yeah. Metrics.
Yeah. So we're paying nearly $3 a litre.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what would that be in gallons?
$3
a liter
I
or a
filled
gallon
up for $3.25, but I don't know what the exchange rate is.
Yeah.
Our $3 is equivalent to about your what would you? Let me think. About $2 US.
Okay.
Yes.
So
you're probably paying equivalent of almost $5 a gallon US dollars.
Well, you go to Los Angeles, about $7 out there too.
Yeah.
So so it's fuel, and that goes into your shipping prices.
Yeah.
And one thing with us, what James has done, and this is one reason, when I was looking at printers, I like this idea here, like, okay, I can look at these little things, kind of give me an idea. This is the time it's going to take. I get this because if you work with any of these sales things, it's like, okay, well, when I get into international shippings, of course, that's going to be quite a bit. But I know I can kind of play in these ranges, and I'll just go ahead and add that to something. There's some places I may pay $1 or $2 more on, and then there's going to be other ones I may make that $1 or $2 less. There's so much that goes into shipping. It's not only destination, it's dimensional weight. And
can I ask you a question right here, right now? This is something I've always wanted to know. The $74.95.
Okay.
Wood crating. I mean, because I do a lot of shipping internationally, and some of my stuff is. Well, the last thing I seen it cost over $1,000.
Yeah, let me tell y'all this. Y'all are getting a great deal because I here locally have paid $500 for a little crate.
Yeah.
We do those here in house. We do them in the warehouse.
But when would we expect it? When would we expect it to be in a crate? So that's what I need to know, because when you're estimating your shipping, you want to think, is this going to end up in a crate? What size are we talking
I usually say with crates, like,
The crate option is more of a option that we have users that will insist their artwork is crated
Mhm.
to be shipped, and sometimes it's recommended as well, especially if it's a
I'm trying to think
large
of,
frame
yeah,
piece.
frame
But,
pieces.
we've actually gone to so you may see that crate option along with some of the other options that like the 1495 option or the some of these other options, but but it gives you a little bit more.
I mean,
Yeah, just it just
mock order.
some people just I wouldn't bother with that right now,
Okay.
but it gives people just some sense of comfort, I guess, that their artwork is being shipped in a wooden crate versus in a box, which may not survive shipping. Now we have gone to a to be determined option as well, because what we found is so many of our large prints, the cost of shipping those, we couldn't ship them at the rate that we would be collecting $250, $300 in some cases for, like, say a large canvas print. But because of the size, it was costing us $500 to ship it. And we used to be able to, those type of orders were few enough that we could absorb that cost. But we now do a lot of orders like that, and we just no longer could absorb that cost. So there is some, now we actually implemented some size constraints because just those massive.
What size does that kick in at, James?
If it can't fit in I believe, I think 30 by 40.
I was going to say 30 by 40 is with the limit, isn't it? 30 by 40 is the limit.
Yeah, I think so. If it goes after larger than 30 by 40, you get that to be a determined amount. Now, sometimes it's not that much more than maybe $30 to $50, but but there are yes, but sometimes a person will order
50, 30 by 40s.
And then it's like, oh, gee whiz, okay, now, and you gotta, and those have to ship via freight, and there's no way of really estimating the cost until you really have calculated the size of the pallet and all that. So, and we ship a lot more orders by freight than we've ever had to before, and it's unfortunately, it's gotten so difficult. It used to be in the olden days of FinerWorks, we could just say, we'll charge everyone $14.95 for shipping, and then someone would come along and say, well, I just want you to ship an 8x10 paper print. I don't want to pay $14.95, and say, yeah, that's too much. Let's come up with a better option, and it's just become more and more difficult to really kind of keep everyone satisfied, unfortunately. And shipping is just, it'd be great if we could charge, offer, real-time rates, but we can't even always accurately predict, how print is going to be packaged.
And that's with software.
Yeah, we calculate, we have really advanced algorithm that calculates order dimensions, but it doesn't always work because the packaging requirements for a frame print is very different than for a rolled up paper print. Yeah. And so, it becomes.
It's one another. Shipping is another convoluted thing that is such a weird thing. And I don't envy anybody who works in that industry. But I'm going to kind of run down on this list here and give me feedback, because like I said, these are what I've found on their sites. So I looked at Shopify Basic, which is their free plan. In some of these cases, you have things where they offer tier plans, like a premium, a plus. I'm going to actually show you what this is. Such a reduced version of what it took to get on here. Let me see if I can kind of share a different green on here. I should put it on the other thing, but so when I went through doing this is what that little checklist is kind of based off of here. I went off of their sites, and you'll see that they have like a Shopify
Now, can we
basic.
can we convert this to a PDF and maybe post it somewhere?
Yeah,
for
I'm looking
people?
at doing that. I wanted to, and that was part of it too. I wanted to get some of the
And
user input on checking on these things. I want to thank one of our customers. She contacted me via Instagram to help me with the Saatchi, because it was some of this information was hard to find. So if you're using the actual product, you do see these things. So Shopify, there's the basic, there is Shopify Advanced. I think this was premium or something, and I forgot to put the name there. There's Square Free Plus, Premium, Basic, Commerce Basic, and Commerce Advanced.
Yeah.
I want to say their naming of their tiers is also really confusing.
Yeah.
Even Etsy has Etsy and Etsy Plus, and you can see that with Etsy, if you're just doing the free account, you don't get charged a monthly fee, and your first 40 listings are free, but you're going to have 20 cents to list an item for the next 4 months. So let's say you've done your 40, those are going, you're not being charged for those. But then once you add like another 20 products, now you got that going on, and it renews every 4 months.
I'll say this: I don't know of too many of our regular Etsy sellers that are using the Etsy Basic program.
Yeah, they're using
anyone that's selling a lot on Etsy is doing the Etsy Plus. It's definitely a better value.
Yeah, and there are some transaction fees with that one if you go with the Etsy Plus. And there's a 6.5 transaction fee on there. They do offer buy now, pay later through Etsy payments, Klarna, on orders, that are between a certain amount, and you have to qualify. Same thing with PayPal. And I'm looking at different things here. Are you able to do all of these?
I want to just mention something to anyone watching this. Next year in 2024, expect these fees to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot, but let me explain what's happening is MasterCard and Visa, I believe, or is it just Visa and American Express? I don't know, but look it up online.
Yeah.
But the credit card companies and if it's just one, expect the others to follow suit soon. Will be raising their or have announced that they'll be raising their transaction fees. So it may be,
which is what I think part of the U.S. commerce is trying to get ahead of. As you go to the gas stations now, they give you less charge if you use cash instead of card.
Yeah. So I'm not certain, but maybe some of them will start offering alternative methods of payment. Especially if those transaction fees are based upon a percentage of every transaction, maybe, but keep an eye on that because I expect that to affect everyone.
Mm-hmm. And when did you say that's probably rolling out next year?
I heard April.
Okay.
Yeah, to start seeing that. But
and again, this goes back to some of our other lives. Is every year add to your prices because inflation. You need to be adding to those prices and your experience.
Yeah, I know there's an aversion with artists to raise their prices because they're worried that they will lose sales when they raise their prices. And yes, you may lose some sales. You won't lose all, and you don't do it in big chunks or big jumps.
That's why it's better to a little every year.
Do it incrementally so you can get a feel for what
the market would tolerate. Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Let's go back to really talking about these platforms: Geo Galleries, Society 6, Redbubble, etc., Fine Art America. Obviously, the advantage to these programs, you don't have to deal with all that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the good, that's the one of the best things about these platforms is you don't have to deal with
The transaction
worrying
fees.
about transaction fees. It's more of a revenue sharing program where they will offer, they basically pay you out a percentage of the sale.
Mhm.
Sometimes they call it a commission, but technically they're taking the commission and they're paying you a royalty. And so for that reason, if managing,
A site. Yeah.
a site like Laz is doing, if it's just too much for you, look at these other programs. Now, Laz is going to be able to make a lot more money
Mm-hmm.
off of his sales than you will on Society 6 or Geo Galleries or Art Pal, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's able to sell his originals the way he wants to, his prints the way he wants to. He has more control on that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you go to these others, you're at the mercy of what they offer.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't just say, "Hey, I want to sell," and maybe there are some exceptions, but the majority of them say these are our products
Mm-hmm.
that you can have your artwork printed on. Okay, and they may be anything from a 5x7 folded greeting card, which obviously you're not going to
Stickers.
make,
Yeah.
unless you're selling thousands of those every day. Don't quit your day job.
Yeah.
But to large canvas prints. Now I like the ones that are selling big wall art displays, because those are going to give people the best chance to earn substantial revenue.
Yeah.
But look very closely at what are these commissions?
Yeah. Like if you look at
and what are these royalty rates?
Yeah, let's Tramp Mom. Like I said, a lot of these you're gonna find a low monthly fee to none on things like Art Pal, Saatchi, Big Cartel, Society 6. You're not gonna find those monthly fees, but in transaction fees and commissions, you will. For instance, Saatchi Art. Now, Saatchi Art, I love. I mean, I've just have loved the website. If you know about Saatchi, it's from Charles Saatchi, who owns the Saatchi Gallery there in London. He's no longer affiliated with the Saatchi Art site, but it's a very, I want to say, it's an art collector kind of feel to their site, and the way they talk about emerging artists now, it kind of gives you a level up. And but they're commission, so you can sell on here. You can sell originals, you can sell prints, but you cannot sell digital downloads on Saatchi, I believe. Or wait, yes, they can. I think. Let me just double check that. Yeah, you do not sell the digital downloads, but you can do licensing through them as well. On original on original art sales, they get a 40% commission, and you don't have to worry about the shipping because they take care of the shipping. You do the packaging, they send a courier, and then you put the label on and it goes out with the courier. On prints, and they offer a print on demand that they have their own contract with and order fulfillment partners, and they do say they do have multiple printers, and it depends again on where the customer is based on who's going to do this. They take 50% on your print sales.
Now, what about controlling the pricing?
Now, here's the thing on the thing, like with print sales. Now, I don't know. I have to check to be sure on Saatchi, but if you look on something like, I want to say base price, okay, like Redbubble, for instance. Some places have the structure where, let's say they're getting the prints made through a print partner. They have a deal to have a lower rate. They're going to give you a base price. So they say, okay, maybe we paid $3 for the print on an 8x10. We're going to tell you the base price on the print product's going to be 10. Now, artists, you have the option to set the price based on that base from 2% to 999%. You're just going to run the scale, and that's what you're going to sell it out. You get paid You don't have to worry again about transaction fees or anything like that. You're going to get paid that markup you have, and then they're going to get paid their percentage for the base price. So that's something, because sometimes some people might not be able to, well, I haven't gotten to that level up to where I can mark it out much. So maybe I'm only going to make 10% markup on this. And there are some people who do a very conservative. I noticed artists do very conservative on their markups. With Geo Galleries, we offered from half time to 3 times, and people were not pricing themselves well. So we just
they weren't.
We just now marked it up to 3 times across the board.
Yeah, and interesting enough is it did not impact sales rates at all. If anything, sales rates have gone up since then. But, but a lot of artists, when Geo Galleries was set up, you had a choice. How much do I want to mark it up? And you had a range you could mark
like
it up.
Like a scale, yeah.
Okay, and so many people were marking up at the minimum that was allowed, and it was like, okay. But then there had some that would mark it up all the way, and say, okay, well, let's just do away with that, because we got, it makes no sense to the buyer unless it's a well-known artist, but it makes no sense for to the buyer that these prints, if the same print by this artist and this artist, they may not know the difference of the art, who the artist is, or they may be trying to compile a collection of similar style art, that the price points were, way different. Now, some might say wasn't a good move on our part. They think it was. Some people didn't like that, but
they didn't like the controls, I think, too.
They want to be able to control that. But like I said, we found that actually it did not hurt sales for us to raise the rates, to those higher rates. And so a lot of artists were able to actually earn more off Geo Galleries than they had before.
Yeah, and that's a good thing on there. Now there's there's some websites like Redbubble that I was a little confused on. Again, the obscurity is a little hard. So if you're on Redbubble selling, maybe chime in. So they have it as a fee based on sales. And again, you have different tiers on Redbubble. Standard, premium, pro, and they wanted, when I was reading their article about why they went to this system, is that they wanted to be able to reward the people that are out there pushing their sites, right? So if you're selling a lot more, you're not going to get the same percentage in transaction fees, maybe for any of your sales, because you're selling so often. Whereas, the same thing. And if you're selling nothing, you're not going to worry about it. And I think it was like under $3 or something like that, you wouldn't have to worry about it. But if you're selling a sticker, let's say for $3, and the base price was, $1, and they're going to end up taking almost 50 cents of that, $1.50, and then you're going to be charged some transaction fees, then you've ended up maybe with 50 cents off of that sticker.
I'm not a big fan of the sites that are offering, just small, like I said, small 5x7 card, or
which is why we on Geo Galleries went only to wall art, because we looked at things like originally we offered the mugs, we offered, I called them kind of the gift store items, the specialty items there, and because a mug is like, for one mug is going to be like $10 or so,
because they just they don't price as well
as if you buy them in bulk.
Or not. What I'm saying is that you can't price them at price points where artists can really earn any substantial amount. I mean, we could take a coffee mug and charge $30 for it, but who's going to buy a $30 coffee mug?
Exactly.
So we, so when we and just to be clear, is FinerWorks and Geo Galleries are separate entities, but we we have we make a lot of decisions for Geo Galleries. It's kind of confusing, but it's basically kind of a satellite company.
Mhm.
But anyway, going back to Geo Galleries, what was discovered is that really the artist wanted to make, a decent revenue, and by offering things like cards and coffee mugs and things like this, we weren't, that it just wasn't worth the effort, and it was just, cluttering up the site, and people, I think, were a lot more happier and look much more professional when we were offering. We switched to wall art only.
I think somebody was asking, I think I have something noted on there as alternative payment. Let me see. And it might have been just the way the site had worded something. I will look into that, Christine, and see what that was. Not too sure. I mean, most of it, alternative payments are B&M, the buy now, pay later option. There's some.
Or was she asking about, payment to the artists themselves? And so, okay, how do you receive the funds?
Oh, how do you?
And I think that's very important. And a lot of companies, including Geo Galleries,
PayPal.
right now just PayPal.
Mhm.
Some of them, larger ones, may do bank transfers.
ACH or.
But in order for and Geo Galleries looked at that, but in order for that to make sense, the amount of transactions that would need to be
That would be
done
higher.
Really weren't comfortable at the threshold that these companies were requiring. So it would have cut into the artist, what the artist received too much. So we just stuck with PayPal. Now I do know that there are some, problem with PayPal artists in certain countries. PayPal is very selective, so where they can operate or where they will allow themselves to operate, or even the country may have restrictions on PayPal. So I know that is a problem, but I think that there'll be better options in the near.
Yeah,
future.
and they've been around a long
I'd
time.
like to see
It's
more
just-
options.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's coming about just
Yeah.
because of that. So what I looked at, and like I said, you guys are welcome to make, this is what I would do if I were you. I would make a spreadsheet like this, and I will be making this available as like a shared document. It'll be under the description part of this video. Again, give me about to the end of day tomorrow. I just want to clean it up, and it's something that you guys can go ahead. You'll be able to copy it and paste it into your own Excel file so that, you can update as you're going. Remember, rates change, terms change. So you want to go back and always, be updated. You'll see that I kind of put the September 2023 up there so that when I come back and look at this, a couple of years later, then I'll be like, I probably have to update that. I've noted, I would go ahead and say, okay, I've noted Society 6, Redbubble, I put where the pricing is that set by you. And again, like I said, these are the ones where we're based on a base rate. So you do have the option to kind of say what you want to price it at, but at the same time, there's that base rate. There are a bunch of little fees, like I said, on here, not so much transaction fees, but maybe sometimes they're commission fees, and I'll put them on there. Like Geo Galleries is 10% of the retail price. So if you're selling, let's say the print costs $10, we're going to retail it at $30. And after the transaction's done, Geo Galleries gets the $3 for administrative costs, which is basically trying to help us cover the cost of image
Geo Galleries
storages and
operation.
operation on that.
Then FinerWorks gets 10 of those dollars.
Yeah,
and the
to make
artist
the print. Yeah,
gets the remainder, which is like
$17.
$17, $18,
Yeah.
something like that. Now.
So on Big
Not
Cartel,
full.
like I said, then again, you're running in a lot of transaction fees. A lot of them are going to be about 2.9% plus 30 cents.
Mhm.
In some cases, there was in Society 6, it said 30 cents to $8 for the shipping. And so you're going to cover the transactional fee on shipping, not so much the
What are
transaction.
they selling that only costs 30 cents to ship?
Maybe a sticker.
Okay.
So I'm like, I don't know. It's probably like their little buffer, but yeah, it was like 30 cents to $8. So there's that. And I have other fees here because again, Redbubble and Fine Art America had a couple of different tiers of how you were going to do that. So I'm going to make this available for you guys to kind of copy and paste and look into.
I think what Society 6 should do, and this is just my own personal opinion, I don't know what,
How they're
their
structured.
business model is completely, but it would definitely lessen some of the confusion, probably improve sales rates if they just
Mhm.
eliminate shipping altogether and just build that into the price of the
Yeah,
product.
that's what again, what we tell a lot of y'all to do is build it in. I'll tell you another thing too, because shipping always feels like nickel and diming when you're buying online. And just think of your
Yeah.
own self when you're buying things online,
Yeah.
where you're saying free shipping and it's all there. It goes into the psychology of your buying habit right there. So offering free shipping and rolling that cost into your products, I think is just a nice way to go.
Unfortunately,
if you have the option.
the days of free shipping, I think, are starting to
Well,
move behind us. And
I think if any, I never really thought they were there. Like I said,
No,
I think a lot of
they're
people,
never there.
people roll it in.
Yeah, but
That's what I'm saying.
even advertising free shipping is becoming less pronounced, and because you can only roll it in so much before it really starts to be reflective in the price of the product. And I think companies are starting to realize that they can't keep rolling in the shipping cost into products at the rate that shipping prices have been increasing. So it's like, what do? You have to, every few months, it seems that either UPS, FedEx, or the post office is raising rates.
Yeah.
And
and that's just how it's always going to be. So like I said, I just think rolling it in gives your buyer a better feeling.
Yeah.
Don't talk about the shipping. Why talk about another item on an invoice why add that item line to talk about? Just go ahead and this is what the price is. It's just going to work better for you. But I'm hoping this helped you guys consider like what you should look at when looking at these pages. I mean, what else can I add, Laz, as I get into, I'll probably put this out a little more and I'll add a little more to it because there was just still so much I wanted to add on here. Is there anything that you've been looking when you look at your a site, whether it be something to put on your website, or even did you even look at any of the marketplaces to say, well, let me see, and what factors did you look at?
I did look at Art America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently looking at Saatchi because I'm selling originals.
Mm-hmm.
And also other print-on-demand places like Gelato. And boy, did I get so much negative feedback. We've got you were talking about some of these places that are offering print-on-demand. They look for the cheapest provider, and that reduces the quality down so low that one of the guys that I follow here, he's a professional photographer. He went with Gelato and he had to stop using them for everything except acrylics because they basically, I think they had 10 or 12 places where they provided printing from. So if I ordered something from New Zealand, there were 2 places in New Zealand, there's a couple in Australia, there's some in Europe. But the quality was so low because, they're looking at that price point, James, and the trouble with that is I want a quality product and I'm not going to go looking for the cheapest product. I want for me as an artist, if I'm producing something that's not a limited edition, signed off limited edition, it's coming from a print on demand provider, I want the quality to be something that I'm happy with.
Sure.
Which is one of the reasons why I went with you guys, because I was involved with a lady called Josie Lewis. She's an artist who teaches people on how to sell online and how to build up a market presence and that sort of thing. And one of the programs we had, they were discussing FinerWorks, you know, as a print supplier, because most of the other ones are only producing the option of canvas and paper.
Mhm.
They don't have any, like you have such a great range. I mean, it's just amazing. I just love it. I love the range, and I love the range of paper.
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, you know, I mean, I'm so happy to say, hey, this is on Hannamill paper rag metallic, packaged on foam core. You know, like I like to think that the product that I'm offering is up to the standard that I have. So yeah, so basically, when I looked around, I looked at the feedback. Most of those places like Fine Art America, the ones you were talking about, all the feedback I'm getting from people now is they've gone down in their estimations. That the quality of, and what's being provided, especially if it's prints, this is a real big problem with prints.
Mhm.
Most of them are getting the lowest quality prints available. So yeah, my decision was to go for a higher price point and push the quality side of it.
Mhm.
Now I'm still in the beginning stages of my advertising campaign, but I can't see it being a problem. It's yeah, and that's the other thing I think the last thing I was going to say was that is the big thing. It doesn't matter how good your website looks, if you haven't got a way to drive traffic to your website, there's no way that people are going to find you accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's important for people to understand with these Fine Art Americas, these
Any of
Geo
these
Galleries, these
Yeah.
you know, they can only drive so much, so many buyers, but and I mentioned this in my blog post, which for whatever reason is not coming up right now. I'm gonna,
Maybe WordPress is having an issue.
yeah, but one of the things is very important for people to understand is that these sites, these platforms, I'm not talking about what Laz is doing with his, you know, because he's controlling
Mhm.
these sites, he's controlling the traffic to much of the extent by marketing and driving the traffic to that. But most of these online platforms, again, with the exception of maybe a place like Etsy, most of their sales are driven by a small percentage of their artists.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, you may, you know, the average artist may get one or two, you know, the occasional sale, okay, on these sites. But many people have heard that 80-20 rule.
Mhm.
Have you, Laz? I'm sure you've heard the 80-20 rule, where
Right.
in this case, it tends to be about 80 to 90%, okay, of the sales on these sites are driven by about 10 to 20% of the artists.
Mhm.
And I think it's more of a 90-10 split where it's 90% of the sales are driven by about 10% of the artists, because it's only about 10 to 20% of the artists that are actually serious about marketing their artwork.
Yeah.
Okay. Because so many of these artists that are posting on these sites are looking for the easy sale. They're just
Well, they're
posting it
emerging
there.
artists too.
Many of them emerging artists. But Laz, you've been in the art scene for, I'm guessing, more than a couple of years.
3 decades.
Yeah.
3 decades.
So you learned that really selling art is a lot of self promotion.
Mhm.
Well, before I went online, the art galleries did the promotion, right? So
Sure.
one of I have a bunch of art galleries I exhibited in, but my main art gallery, where I was the main artist, they would spend over $20,000 a year just on advertising for me.
Mhm.
So that's why the commission's high. I mean, that's why the commission's like 40%, 50%, because you know. So basically, what's happened is now we've gone from physical art gallery to let's say Saatchi's. It's the same thing. That's why they're charging that much, because they're basically doing all the work, and their reputation and their advertising is drawing people to their site, and you're piggybacking upon what they're doing.
But,
So-
but let me ask you something, Laz. I'm sure, I'm guessing it took a lot of legwork, a lot of effort on your part to get to that point with those galleries. Am I correct?
Yeah, it didn't hurt though that I did work on Lord of the Rings. That actually helped a lot.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of free advertising out of that. I mean, I got the big, like back in the day when people read newspapers, I got a two-page spread in the middle of the newspaper and all that sort of thing.
Hey, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I know. A lot of us are Lord of the Rings.
We got a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and get this, no one
My
knows the paintings I did. No,
dedicated
if you ask anyone about the paintings on Lord of the Rings, no one will even know what they are.
Yeah.
You can't imagine, you can't remember a painting on there, can you?
No, I can't. But I can.
Can I give?
I remember Gandalf though.
I'll give you a clue. Did you watch the Hobbit trilogy as well?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so you remember the last one because that was only a few years ago.
Yeah.
The very last scene, the Hobbit comes back. His house is being auctioned off, and so all of his household items are being auctioned off because they think he's missing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he stops the auction. And he goes in, and the place is a mess. He sits down, and he's sitting there with his hands in his head, and he looks down, and there's a portrait of his mother in an oval frame. He picks it up, he dusts it off, and he sticks it over top of the fireplace next to the portrait of his father. So those are the two portraits I did.
I will have to put a little video cut on our Instagram to kind of show that scene on there and let everybody.
The interesting thing about it is that the portraits are actually of Peter Jackson and his wife, the one who made the movie, dressed up as hobbits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But unless you knew what he looked like without a beard and without glasses, you can't recognize him. Yeah.
I know my daughter is gonna just squeal over that little. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That's just gonna be her whole because she loves to find. Yeah, she likes to find her whole little stories in there. So
there's all these little hidden things in there.
Really geek out.
Yeah, she likes to tell me like, there's a director. He's here right here. That's him making his cameo, and she'll tell you all sorts of stuff of background characters. Yeah.
He even has his children in there, and the reason I recognize them is because I did portraits of them as well for him. So so I go, there's his kids,
Yeah. Well, Ken, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to give us this feedback. Thank you for also being a customer. We really appreciate that. It's great to have face-to-face. I like this, even though, like I said, it's one thing I appreciate about FinerWorks as a customer coming to work here is that there's still, faces to this company. And a lot of us have our personable things. I think with all of our, even customer service, working with a lot of people, we have, we get to know a lot of our artists here, and we like that. So it's kind of like mirrors San Antonio. While we're a big city, and here we have a big space. It has a small town feel to it. And I think, FinerWorks has that too. And I've liked that. But we appreciate you and all our other customers who've chimed in. Candace, Christina, I'm going to look up that question. If you'll send that to me at melissa@finerworks.com, I'll look into that alternate payment thing because I want to make sure I answered your question. And then again, you guys in the comments, go ahead and share your links to your sites. I'm a professed artaholic. I can't help myself. So who knows? I do buy a lot of stuff off of Geo Galleries as it is. So put your sites up there so we can visit them. We'd love to be able to support you guys as well on there. And if you have any questions, please drop us a line at customercare@finerworks.com. James or I would be, happy to answer. All right.
And we have 3 excellent customer service representatives as well that are phenomenal. And so if it's something relatively simple that they can address, either Brandy, Angel, or Ruby will respond, and they're great.
Yeah. So we'll do our best to Ken. Laz, again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And guys, thank y'all out there. I'm going to go ahead. I'll have this coming up soon. So look in the comment section here. We'll also, I guess, if I can get this set up, James can send it into the newsletter as well. If there's other things on here that y'all want me to, try to find out, let me know what's important for you guys in finding a selling platform, and I'll add it to that list and see if I can find the information, or at least create the column there for you guys to know to hunt it down. Okay, guys, have a great one, and we'll see you guys next month.